Perfect.
Hey, this is Emmy Thomas. I'm talking to Risky Business, who is smoking a cigarette.
Hello.
Hi, Risky. So we're going to start as we always start with the question of what is it like to be you?
Unique. I recently, the last couple of months, I have been threatened with death. Lost my partner of 11 years. Um, I went to hospital because I got scared and confused that everybody around me was just didn't know how to handle me. And well, yeah, no, recently I was in a mental health ward in the hospital, and I had one, two, three, four, five, about seven ambulance drivers and the EMs in the back, and they were standing around in a circle, just listening to me
Mm,
yap on about emotions and how people work. And I got compared to what's his name, Stephen Fry and Stephen Hawkins. But at the time, I was off my face on drugs, and I think marijuana, sort of for me anyway. I don't know if it's a normal thing. Marijuana um, makes my brain sort of go into overdrive, as other people say, or relax it for me.
mm.
And it's only until I've recently left my ex partner that I've become more me. I'm not afraid to hide. Um, I don't know. I'm not afraid to hide who I am anymore. And that's why I reached out to you, in fact, because I want to understand what this is. I scare people. I don't intend to scare people, but they don't know either to hug me, love me, or hurt or kill me. And it's one literally. I'm not over exaggerating these words when I say that it is one extreme or the other. There's no sort of middle ground where I've had a few, not followers. I wouldn't say followers. I've had people who I don't know the words, who look up to. No, I don't want to use the word followers because it just seems a bit big-headed, I guess. But that's what they are. And there's this one person who's trying to find me and kill me because I got into his head while I was drunk. And people try to hide their insecurities. They want to come across as somebody they're not, and it scares people that I can walk into a room. I don't think that I do this personally. I thought it was normal. I can walk into a room and I can see people for who they are. I mean, for instance, if you see somebody really angry, they're in a bar fight, for instance, the average person can see that and think that's not a good situation to be in. They're clearly angry. They've got issues.
Hmm.
And I sort of see people and I pick up not to that not to that extreme, I guess, but the minutiae, the minutia of things, the little aspects, the small emotions, the flicker of a smile, or the grin of I think I feel I'm better than you, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And people say that that takes training and a lot of work, and because of that, I've been called emotionless and cold and hurtful. But to me, that's not what it is. To me, it's being able to understand. Why is it that I can understand somebody's emotions or my own emotions? That when I feel something, I'm able to express that with words, and people think that I went off on one, but there I do apologize.
No. So people think like when you're able to describe your own emotions, like just clearly, like, oh, I'm feeling this way because I have experienced this trauma. Like they think that's emotionless.
Exactly, it doesn't make sense, does it? As a recent example, people think murdering is wrong,
Right.
but yeah, no, no, no. But that person, they've clearly justified it to themselves of why they're doing it. They're not going into an action or an event where they think to themselves that they're doing wrong.
Yeah.
So they're not. But yet other people have got these views of, oh my god, he's wrong, he's this and he's that. And again, I was going off on them. What I was trying to get back to is, when I feel something, I'm able to come across as this is why I'm feeling it. This is the situation that brought on this emotion, and this is why I'm feeling this. And yet people are raw. They they feel, and they don't. Well, I don't know. They don't understand it, do they? They don't. I don't know. They just think anger is anger, but it's not. There's reasons of why you're feeling it. There's situations that make those emotions come out, and to be able to say that to somebody, to be able to use logic, or to be able to make somebody see a situation that comes across as dangerous. I've been called dangerous. I am not a dangerous person. I have never once killed. I don't get me wrong. I've unintentionally put people's lives in danger,
Right.
but that's not because I thought, you deserve to die, so I'm gonna make the situation happen. It's just I don't know. I don't know. But go on. I think that's your turn to speak.
Sounds good. So, a lot of interesting things you've said. I think that what you said about murder is really insightful. Is that that kind of applies more generally to a lot of things in life where we're like, well, of course, murder is wrong. We can all agree on that. On the flip side, though, every time it happens, you're right that there's always a reason why the person
100%.
doing it. I mean, I don't think anyone, or like a very small percentage of murderers, are like, I am doing this, but it is wrong, but I'm still doing this. They all have some sort of justification.
There's always justifications with a lot of, well, with every action somebody does. There's always that risk and reward, and there's always that if I do this, this will happen. And with murder as well. I mean, my personal history background, my parents, it's not murder, it's a different subject, it's rape. My
Mm,
father and my mother sold me off and raped me. And people say, oh, I'm sorry this has happened. Oh, you must be. And no, my father did what he did to me, not out of I'm going to rape you. He did it out of in his view, a sense of love. In somebody else's view, obviously that would be a warped sense of love, and it is. Don't get me wrong. I mean, general public would say that's a warped sense of love, but he did that in his own head because he was giving me love. That's the only way he knew how to do it. He
mm.
didn't do it because he thought that I hate you. I'm going to stick my cock in you because people might do that for those reasons, but I don't know. Back to what we were saying, people do things for reasons not out of badness. I guess. I mean, there's a way better word than that, but that's isn't it?
Yeah, it is interesting. Like in law school, like I learned that there was, basically like temporary insanity is that you were just so caught up in the moment in your emotions, basically, that you did something in a hot-headed way, or even like murder versus manslaughter. Sometimes that's the distinction. Like if you're so angry about something, like you walked in on your spouse cheating on you and then you
Yeah.
killed them both, like the chances of you doing serious time are just like nothing. Because everybody's like, well, I would have done the same, and I'm like, well, murder's murder, guys. But for other people, it's different. There are
They
like
have to put that
justifiable
distinction in,
murders.
exactly. Like you said, murder is murder. Whether it's you kill somebody just because you want to, or you, like you said, you find somebody in bed with somebody that you have strong emotions for, and you murder them. To
Mhm.
me, and I thought this was normal. Like you said, murder is murder either way. But people put these rules, classifications, justifications, and everything in between because they need to make sense of the world.
Yeah.
And it's confusing because if I was to I don't know, if I was to murder my father, that would be looked upon as sympathetic. But if I was to murder my mother, people would say you're a monster. But it's until you explain the reasons why you did that, that's when people come to your reasoning. And when you start explaining your emotions and your thought process behind it, then people will say that's manipulative.
Mm.
So where's the line between a sociopath explaining something and manipulating somebody? Because I don't go out into the world trying to make life difficult. I want to make it as easy as possible. So I would jump in between things, yeah, and I'm sorry for that. But
No.
what's the difference then between manipulating somebody and trying to make your life as easy as possible? Because that's what everybody does, do they not? They don't go out and intentionally create difficult situations where they have to think on their feet and put themselves in difficult positions. They go about life trying to make their life as calm and as nice as possible. So what's the difference between that and me, in other people's view, manipulating somebody?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think they're two things. Just in my own opinion, these are my own personal thoughts.
What?
Yeah. So one of them is that normal people do manipulate more often than they realize. And they're weird about it too. Like I'm writing a second book. I was talking to my literary agent the other day about it. We're like in the park working on it together, and she said, do we have to use the word manipulation here? Can't we just say influence? And I was like, sure, but manipulation and influence mean the same thing. She's
They
like, yeah,
do,
but
but they
manipulation's such an ugly word or whatever. And I'm like, okay, you know, I
so
guess
much power in words.
yeah, there's so much power in words. So I know that like normal people, just I've noticed maybe that at least some normal people seem to be sensitive about the word manipulation and don't want to think of it that way as applied to them. Now, I do think some of their behavior I had a therapist who kind of described, one of my family members, kind of saying like he kind of doesn't know what he's doing all the time, but you are right that he conveniently, his mental illness kind of comes in conveniently when there's some sort of, benefit to him.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, that's
Right.
that's that's go on.
Yeah, so like same things with normal people. Their emotions sometimes get triggered in ways that are really convenient to them. Let them off the hook somehow or give them
Yeah.
an excuse for why they behave the way that they did or whatever. So it's too, if you kind of graft it on a chart, it's too convenient, for it to be accidental, completely accidental. But nor do I think that they're as self-aware in some ways about some of these things as like people like you, for instance, or I like to think me, that, yeah, the reason why I got angry is this, and that's why I did that. And, like that sounds a little bit cold and calculating. And oh, here's another story. So this person that I recently met, in the year of our Lord 2022, said,
Brilliant. I like
yeah, I told her because I was like, oh, she seems nice and something, and she's kind of like, working through some stuff is probably just a good way to put it. And so like I thought, we're going to keep kind of working together. It'd be probably good to just tell her like, hey, what's up with me? What's
yeah,
up
yeah.
with my girlfriend whom she knows, kind of just like clue her into some things. So I did, and then she read the book, and then she's like, are you still that cold and calculating all the time? And I'm like, what does it mean to be cold and calculating? Like, did
No,
you come up?
that's the thing as well. You say that. I think that you said that when people have these intense emotions and they explode, and that's okay to do that. But
Hmm.
yet, when we sort of go through, sorry, just justify them. When people justify things, they did this for this reasons. That's okay to do it on very few and rare occasions, and that's normal. That's normal human behavior.
Hmm.
But do it throughout, or no, we do it throughout our life constantly. We see things, justify it, and it's not black and white, but we know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and getting the result that hopefully that we're trying to achieve.
Hmm.
So where's the line between cold and calculating, like you said? Because I don't think that's the right terminology to use. But then when somebody else does it, it's okay. So how
Yeah.
are they not sociopathic, but we are?
Yeah. So I think that is a question, a legitimate question to ask the normal people. Maybe they'll have some ideas.
And then
Y-
no, that's the thing as well. I do. I've gone into professional situations, counselors, therapy. I've criminal psychologists, and I sit down and I talk to them, and they look at me and they say that it's not right. I mean, I've literally been called an alien by mental health experts, and that's frightening. When somebody who's been to university for years on end looks at you and says those words,
yeah.
that's not something you want to hear at
Hmm.
all. And to be able to, I don't know if this is normal for people who've got psychopathic or sociopathic traits, but do our brains work faster, or is that a narcissistic trait? by saying that my brain works faster than everybody else. But then when you have mental health experts and people around you saying that your brain works quite fast, then that's not me being narcissistic. That's me getting outside um, views from other people. So again, what is it? Is that me having fast processes of the brain, or is that me being narcissistic?
Yeah. I actually think I have forgotten most things in my life. My memory's terrible now, but I think I remember there was a some research that found that psychopaths have a thinner, I think it's called corpus callosum, which is the kind of like cloud area in between the two hemispheres of the brain that kind of processes
Right,
the
right.
yeah, the connections made between the hemispheres of the brain. And so people kind of, I think the study was like, yeah, so it would seem like they would have faster faster brains, and like at that point you're like, well, does it really matter? Faster in some ways is not even, I don't even think it's narcissistic, because who cares if it's faster? Most of the time in life it doesn't matter, unless maybe it's like, quick reaction times or something like this.
Yeah, yeah.
And then your brain's not nearly as fast as my teenage nephew's brains, when we
One
play
hundred
video
percent.
games. Yeah,
Yeah,
their
exactly,
reflexes
exactly.
and brains are like super fast. But yeah, for your age, for your gender, for your everything, yeah, probably it makes sense to me that you would have a fast brain. And I also think if you kind of if your brain is doing a lot, your brain's like making you breathe, your brain's making sure your bowel movements come on time, your brain's doing all this stuff, right? And then you add your emotions into it. People kind of have like that emotional layer that's just kind of buzzing in the background, just of everything, even when they're sitting there watching the TV, like the emotional layer kind of buzzing in the
Yeah,
background. And if you have like less of that going on, then you can imagine, same thing like with a computer. If there's always just all this background action kind of going on, taking up the CPU power capacity, then that is slower. that's that's why people try to get bigger CPUs, have fewer things running on in the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
background, to make their computer more efficient. So I often think that psychopaths tend to kind of just be like a little bit, I mean, not like they're hyper rational or something, but if you kind of take emotions more out of the picture, not completely out, I'm sure, there you still get angry, I get angry, whatever.
100%.
Yeah.
There's a wide range of emotions that we feel. Uh,
But
w-
I don't think those emotions are as primary to us. Like, we don't spend as much time with them. We don't devote as much brain power. Like
no,
they just don't matter as much to us. It's like, some people are really engaged in world politics and other people are not. So, and if you're not engaged in world politics, then you just have more mental space for other things. So it again, it's not a good or bad thing. It's just a difference.
so is it more than, I guess, how you use it? I mean, people say that sociopaths can be lawyers, solicitors, and all that sort of stuff. Is that like you said that if you've got the ability, if you use and channel the ability to be able to rationalize everything around you, then you can sort of concentrate on becoming um, this better better self, that I guess, because somebody who wanders about doing nothing with their life, then they're going to sort of, I don't know, internalize everything and get confused and lost. Because when I first reached out to you, that's
Hmm.
where I was. I was confused and I was lost, and the thoughts that I was having, they were just everywhere. I was putting questions upon questions upon questions, and now I'm working with the prison system and kids abuse and all sorts. And I think like you say, it doesn't matter, but in a sense, I think it should. I genuinely think that it should matter that your brain works faster, or um, it should matter the insignificant little things that are going on. Because if you can understand, and this is what I always do. If you can understand something, then you can use that So if you know that your brain works faster, then use it. Or if you know that um, person A or person B is thinking this way, that then use that to the best of your abilities. Because if you know something and understand the reasons behind it, it's safer, I guess. I mean,
Yeah, and I agree with you, but what do you mean by safer?
safer as in I know where I stand, where I am, and there's no outside sort of danger to myself. If I know that I don't know, the shopkeeper is just going to have a general sort of bartering conversation with me, then I know, and I'm able to understand that situation, because I've been in positions where it's a little bit overwhelming and I feel unsafe because you don't know where you stand. If you don't know where you stand, anything, well, in my view, then anything has the potential to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm going off on a tangent or if I'm getting somewhere, but I
No.
think I will personally like to know what's happening around my situation.
Yeah. So, at least for me, I've noticed in my own self, and I think I've noticed it in other, personality disorder, especially psychopathic people, is that there's almost an obsession with control. Like the where does
100%.
yeah, where does the manipulation come from? It comes from this desire to control your surroundings. Where does the desire to control come from? It comes from this desire to predict your surroundings. Where does the desire to predict come from? It comes from this the need to feel safe, as
Yeah,
we say.
100%.
Yeah.
And again, see, I've come across other people that what we've just said or what you personally just said is not normal.
Yeah.
This is my question to you then: is it not normal that within reason we can predict with an almost 90 to 100% certainty how an event will play out? Obviously, we're not mind readers and we can't tell the future.
Hmm.
But when it comes to people or our own personal surroundings, is it not normal to be able to predict things?
So I think it kind of depends on people. Like supercomputers can predict things, right? Like supercomputers can find patterns, are very good at pattern recognition, and so are psychopaths. They're very good at pattern recognition. Why are we so good at it? Because we are so highly motivated to do it by a need for that feeling of safety. Like the more we feel like we can predict a situation, the safer we feel. And so we have just devoted from like a very young age, is my own kind of theory and my own personal experience, devoted so much time, energy to doing this. Like I think I've mentioned before, like having kind of like Excel spreadsheets
Yeah,
with formulas like running in the background all the time about everything, trying to be like 8 steps ahead of whatever is happening in your world. So then you can be like, yep, I knew this was going to happen. I knew this was going to happen. So my girlfriend, one of her favorite things to do is like guess award show results. But in the same way, it's like she's so good at it. She's done it in her whole life. And when it comes to her family, it's of necessity. It's because that she needs that for a feeling of safety to be able to predict them. But then when it comes to award shows, it's just fun. But she said she's like won tons of money. Like she predicted the upset of Taylor Swift winning over Kendrick Lamar for the
wow,
best whatever
that is
artist.
impressive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she's pretty good, and likes to have feel like she kind of can see the future a little bit because it gives her like a sense of, yeah, safety is a really good word. Control, yes, but what is the control really getting at? It's getting at this sense of predictability, which is getting
Oh,
at this
I
sense
get
of
it.
safety.
What you said there as well, it's literally all in the words, isn't it? I mean, what's the difference then between being proud and arrogant, or between feeling um uh, I had a good conversation a couple of days ago, but it's gone through my head. Proud, arrogant, intelligent, or big-headed. There's always two words to
Yeah.
describe one thing, and it's whether you want to put a positive or a negative connotation on that. And I don't know if I don't know if connotation is the right word, but there's always that positive and negative influence that you can have with words. And being safe, being able to feel safe, shouldn't be looked upon in a negative view. But
No.
our view on feeling safe is different from the average person. So what's the difference between the average person feeling safe, and why is that looked upon dangerously when I want to feel safe?
Yeah,
Because
why
that's
why are
go
you
on.
dangerous? Oh, I think part of it's just it's different than their way, and maybe they don't understand that that's your real motivation for doing it. One. Two is I think that in they feel vulnerable to you. They feel
Yeah,
like since you understand them so well that you can hurt them, and they feel like they can't predict you because you're so different from them, and they don't understand you at all. You've been living with normal people your whole life. You understand them. They have some of them don't even know psychopaths exist.
yeah,
And so they're kind of like, what is this thing, like you understand me, I don't understand you. That makes them feel like they're at a disadvantage.
and recently, you say that as well. Recently, I've learned that the people I've spoken to, that there's never a middle ground. There's always an extreme, and that's what I said about the followers.
Mm.
That people, when you talk to them, they don't like the feeling of getting inside their heads, for instance, and they feel like at a disadvantage. But surely normal people do that. Just this isn't a perfect example that I'm using. When a normal person walks past somebody who's on the floor with needles inside of them, they tend to. I do apologize if somebody come up to me. I'm gonna. How are you doing, boss? I got. Yeah, no, I'm a bit busy. I am, man. Bit busy.
I'm sorry.
It's right. Do you wanna?
I love you a bit.
Oh, I love you too, man. I love you too.
Honest to God.
Alright,
Seriously.
yeah. I'm on. I'm doing something right now. I am. Do you wanna?
Okay.
All right. Cheers. All right. Brilliant. There you go. Perfect.
See you tomorrow.
Love you too.
Yeah.
But I think that's where you're gonna edit and cut that one out.
Yeah, you can listen to it later. I think it's fine. It seemed
Right.
nothing.
As I was saying, I've lost my train of thought there.
Yeah, I kind of lost your train of thought too. We were talking about, or I didn't lose your train of thought. I also got distracted. So we were talking about how, oh, your followers, that it's either all or nothing. That
It is.
they're, yeah.
People that they either like it or they hate it, but is it not, and that's what I mean. The normal person does it. They'll walk around somebody on the streets with needles in their arms, or drunkards sleeping on the side of the walkway, because internally they know that's not a situation that they want to put themselves in. They're not going to intentionally walk up to somebody with drug needles and be like, "How are you doing, buddy?" Because they
Hmm.
know they're putting themselves in a position that they don't want to be put in. And that's what I do, and that's what you do. You see somebody, you're able to read them, and you don't want to put yourself in a position of vulnerability. So you use what you see and sort of control that situation to make that situation a positive outcome.
Yeah.
And yet the normal person does it. That they will walk past somebody, or in an interview situation, they'll put on their best face, or on a first date, they'll smile and say things to get the best situation out of that, or they'll sit in the back of a taxi and talk to somebody and make that journey the best journey that they want for themselves. So
Yeah.
why is that any different to what I do? Why do I get the extremes of I'm gonna murder you or I want to fuck you?
Yeah. So about the followers, I think the deal with the followers is there's like people who are followers are probably naturally prone to extremes, kind of.
Yeah,
Like that's for the first thought. And then why do some people go to one extreme versus the other with the followers? I think some people that you encounter are actually like us, and they also are trying to kind of predict and control people. And so when they find out that you've already done it before them and done it better than them and already are in their heads before they even had a chance to even think about getting in your head, then I think that's when they get kind of like freaked out. They're impressed because it's like game respects game. Have you heard that
Yeah, yeah,
phrase? Yeah, game respects game, but on the flip side, they feel like, now that you've basically shamed them, because you've kind of like done this without them even realizing, when they kind of pride themselves on being kind of good readers before. At least
yeah,
when the people who have threatened my life, it's often that. It's often that they feel like they almost got caught with their pants down, and I'm
They
like,
feel vulnerable. They feel exposed.
yeah, and I mean, this happened to me in a professional circumstance. The other day, I was like in a very temporary position job, and there were like gender neutral bathrooms, right? So I like
Yeah,
walk in on my coworker. I'm like, I'm very sorry. Like the gender neutral bathroom had like a lock that, was connected to the wall of the other stall, so it was
yeah,
like very easy for it to become unlatched. And then somebody did that to me, and I was like, yeah, okay, this latch is broken, I'm gonna stop using this one.
yeah. I totally get that.
But I didn't freak out or whatever, but I could see how somebody might be like, this is the worst thing that could ever happen to me, especially depending on what they were doing in there. Like when I walked in on somebody, it was like just, like just their back. It was like nothing exposed,
Yeah,
nothing,
yeah, yeah.
whatever. When they walked on me, I was just like zipping up my pants, so it wasn't like a big deal. But I could imagine it being worse, for somebody, for whatever the thing is, right? And then you're like, well, I didn't do this on purpose. I didn't intentionally, see you in this vulnerable
Yeah, yeah.
position. But they're still angry about it because, like, the world is um, so hard. The world is filled with so many, like, what is it, the Game of Thrones quote, the night is
Well,
dark and full of terrors. Like, people really do
yeah.
kind of feel this way about the world. Like, there's just so much like shit being thrown at you every day. You wake up and you're like,
There's
what,
always something. Yeah,
yeah, how am I going to get shit on today? And so people kind of like resent the fact that you are the one now who's potentially going to, like, you have
shit.
this, yeah, maybe because you have this insight into them, and they're just worried how you're going to use it, and that they don't want to waste their time, worrying about it. But it really kind of drives home to what they care about, which is their social position, which is something that we talked about, before we started recording, where like psychopaths tend not to be socialized as much.
No,
you
they
know,
don't.
yeah, we're like, a surface that does not absorb dye or whatever.
That's another thing that confuses me as well. That if I'm so good at being able to understand and read positions, then why is it that I've grown up being a loner? I mean, the last couple of months when I've been living on my own, it's the situation's changed. But if we're able to understand and see things, then shouldn't we have loads of friends? I mean, I've got people who think that I'm their friend, sort of thing. But why isn't it that I don't see loads of people as being my friend if we're capable of doing what we think that we can do? It might be different in your sort of view. It might be different in somebody else's who's got these traits. But in my own view, that shouldn't I have loads of friends or
Yeah.
loads of people?
And I
So
think this kind of gets to the flip side of the followers, right? The followers is like, on the one hand, the people who want to kill you are like, they feel vulnerable to you, that makes them feel uncomfortable. Some people
yeah,
feel vulnerable to you and they interpret that probably as intimacy, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, they're like, this, I am really seen by this person truly understands who I am in a way that, like, maybe I've never
yeah,
been understood, yeah,
yeah,
about these particular things. So I think that, we understand people. So I think a lot of people think, hey, this person's my friend, because this person doesn't judge me. I can tell them anything I want, and
yeah,
it seems like they don't care. They're not socially shunning me. There are no, like, big repercussions of them trying to, like, oppress me or get me to think or feel a different way because, to conform to their expectations of how people should think or feel, which is something normal people do all the time, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Why is that viewed then as being wrong? That you don't judge the average person, you don't judge a paedophile or a murderer, and I don't. I don't judge. I understand, and I've always said. Well, recently I've always been able to say that,
Yeah.
and that comes across as scary
Yeah.
because might be going around in circles here, but to be able to understand something surely is a positive, not a negative.
Yeah. I agree with you on this. We do see eye to eye. It is a good question for normal people. Like, why is it so wrong to understand? Like, just our capacity to understand. And that's why I think it's like so important to, I think this is like, like what is the responsibility that a psychopath bears for being psychopathic? I definitely don't think like no one of us chose to be psychopath. No one was like,
No,
I'm
not
gonna
at all.
become a psychopath, I'm gonna like endure these traumatic childhood experiences and become a psychopath,
Yeah.
Uh yeah.
Do you think then as well all the people put in a position who was able to do, it's called the DMI or something, isn't it? The sort of description of multiple different mental health illnesses. The DM, I there's a
Yeah,
book with like
DSM. Yeah,
that's the
DSM.
one, that's the
Uh-huh.
one. Now, is it because then the normal people then put in a position who are able to write that book, they see us and they don't like it, so they put all these negative words that we're manipulative, we're this and we're that. But in reality, then we're not. Like you said, we're understanding we have this responsibility, but people see that as something scary, so they put a negative spin on it where it's really not.
Yeah, I think especially, and hopefully I'm not going to get sued for defamation for this, since he
But yeah,
has before sued people for defamation. But I
ouch.
personally, and I've heard other people who have this share this belief that one of the most prominent researchers in the field, I will just name him by name, Robert Hare. I
I
personally
know the guy.
feel,
I don't know him
based
personally, but Brad.
yeah,
Go on,
based
sorry.
on things I have read, quotes, direct quotes from him, that he probably, got a little butthurt about, psychopaths, basically like having his number before he understood who they were, like they
Yeah, yeah,
understood who, yeah. So they could see through him in a way that he couldn't see through them at least at first, and that probably kind of disoriented him.
yeah. It does. It does.
Yeah, it wasn't comfortable. It was like they walked in on him in the toilet, something like that. It made him feel vulnerable. And that, like, that colored the way that he described the condition
It does.
afterwards.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
would
100%, I think some of that's happening, and I see what you're saying. And I do think there's like a lot of positive traits. And it's been good that we've been talking about these positive traits because I think we don't talk enough about it. But do you have more to say on this? I'm gonna like totally pivot. I'm about to pivot.
but like you said then about that as well, that it depends on the person. Then me personally, I want to do good. I want to put I want to put good into the world.
Well,
But
it
then somebody
always
else.
depends on the person, like in what situation does it not depend on the person? Like I know some big ass dudes, like big, tall, muscly. And some of them I feel completely safe with. Like it's great that I'm friends with this big ass dude. And then
Yeah,
other ones of them I'm like, this guy, if like we were in a dark corner, could rape me so easily. Right. So I kind of get it. It's like when somebody has like a natural kind of advantage over you, physical or whatever the thing is,
yeah.
like they see you better than you see them, like that can be scary to people. You do feel a little bit more vulnerable, but it really does depend on the person. Not every big dude, or specifically like men in general with
Yeah, no, yeah,
testosterone
yeah, I get it, I get
are
it.
like risky, but it's not like I'm like I can't be friends with men because they have testosterone. I think it's the same with psychopaths. It's like it really, as you say, yeah, it does come down to the person and
So
their
if that's
choices.
exactly the choices that they put out and the choices they make dictate where they are in life. But then, if that's the case, where we all want to feel safe, so we control situations, why
Hmm.
is it then that or I intentionally put myself in stupid positions where my life's at risk, or where I have so many cars, so many accidents, and I'll purposely rock climb and jump from one place to another, knowing that if I miss this, I'm going to be fucked. So, where, what, why? why is it that, and it's not just me, risk taking is a thing that people with sociopathic or psychopathic traits do, isn't it?
Right.
So if I continuously want to feel safe and control my environment,
Hmm.
why do I intentionally risk my life?
Yeah.
This sort of bounces off each other and it doesn't sit well, does it?
Yeah. Well, doesn't it seem like you have a competing need? Like you have a need to control, or that's how you experience your existence. You have a need to control, but then what is the competing need that that like leads you to do, trash your cars or whatever?
I want to feel. I want to feel. I want to feel.
Yeah.
That is literally it. I want to be able to feel emotion. Not even emotion. I want to feel something. But yeah, I already do feel things sitting here with you talking. There's a sense of enjoyment. So I'm feeling enjoyment. So it's not. I'm not doing those things to feel. So I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
When I've broken up with my 11-year relationship and that hurt. I didn't cry. I don't know why I didn't cry because I did feel pain. I felt loss. I felt like something in my life is no longer there. Um, I feel hatred. I feel all the ranges of emotions, but yet I will continuously put myself in situations where my life is at risk. So I don't know. I don't know what is competing with the need to feel safe. So it's obviously not emotions that I want from that situation.
Hmm.
I guess that's a question that I'm hoping that you might be able to answer, or a question that will eventually be answered in the future.
Yeah, uh-huh. So, I mean, let me like kind of like tell you a little bit about myself, my own experience, and then you can let me know if like any of this rings true for you. So, like, my need for control used to be just mostly exercised, like in smaller ways. As a child, it was like, okay, control, manipulate my parents so we can do fun things I want to do. Let me stay up late, let me eat
Yeah,
the
yeah,
ice cream, let me go back in the pool, whatever the thing is, right? And then, like, as it kind of, my life got more complicated, like the need for control had to kind of expand because as a child, it's so simple, life is so simple that you
yeah.
don't really need to exercise your control in that many ways. And then, even in university, maybe it's like not your world is so narrow in a lot of ways that you're fine. Like everything's predictable enough. You go to this class, you do
Yeah, yeah,
whatever. And then
and
as you
then yeah,
kind of grow older and things get more complicated, there are more people in your life. You have like more intricate, rich relationships and stuff. Maybe that you kind of naturally start needing to control more because your life becomes naturally a lot more unpredictable. And so, in order to kind of keep that sense of safety, then you're like, okay, now I have a bunch of Excel spreadsheets kind of like running about all these different things, right? And then you kind of notice that one of the most unpredictable things about your life is you. Like you keep self-sabotaging all of this stuff that you have like, carefully set up to be predictable, right? So you kind of got like competing yous in there. There's the you that wants the safety and control and predictability, and then there's the other you that you don't really understand that comes in and like messes stuff up, crashes your car, like does risky behavior, puts other people's lives at risk, right?
but
And
then let me stop you there. I do apologize.
no,
If we're able to understand and predict and talk through reasonings, etc., then the unpredictability of things, there shouldn't be an unpredictability of things if we're able to see things. I don't know if I'm getting my point across there, but you're
yeah,
saying that,
but everybody has blind spots. Everybody has blind spots. We just don't have the mental capacity, especially as we age. I have noticed that, especially as I age, that I cannot keep track of as many Excel spreadsheets as I used to. I mentioned earlier, like my memory's worse, like things that I used to easily be able to do at 18, I can
yeah,
no longer
yeah.
do and kind of predict and like run all these calculations constantly. Yeah.
So would you say then the older you get and then the more normal you're becoming?
Well, the older you get, the less able you are to kind of rely on predictability and control as your safety, I think, because your mental capacity for it diminishes.
So if your mental capacity to be able to understand and control your situation diminishes, wouldn't that be you becoming more? Yeah, you're becoming more normal. You're becoming like the person, the people around you.
Who
You're not
can't,
able
yeah,
to.
they're not able to predict, right? So you're more in their situation. I don't think you're not more normal. You're more in a normal person's world. Your experience is more like what normal people experience. Yeah. So like there were different ways that I kind of reacted to this. One of them is I started manipulating myself too, like a lot more because I was like, I got to keep myself from doing these bad things.
Yeah, yeah.
So I started manipulating myself. That was a big one. The other thing is I started retreating from the world. I was like, the more complex the world is, the like, it's just so taxing on my brain to keep doing this, so I just need to simplify my life. So my life is basically wake up, like, self-care, go to work,
The
Chick-fil-A,
basics.
yeah. Fan fiction, lesbian fan fiction was mine for like years. Rizzoli and Isles fan fiction, if people want to look this up. Where
There's
I
a
was like,
website actually
I
called
just
Alt. One.
yeah, I just needed something like brain dead. I just was like, I am so mentally taxed doing all this that I just need to simplify my life. And I didn't even care during those years to really have that many friends. And if I did have a friend, it was like, okay, just this one or something, and the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
people were just playthings, almost like disposable, like single use plastic
No, I get it.
utensils. Yeah,
You're using them to get something that you want from them. And that's what friendship is. People are friends because
yeah,
they see something that they like, so they will use that. They'll go out drinking. They will go out
right.
whatever friends do, because
Yeah,
they're using them to get something from it. And that's what we do. We'll use somebody when they no longer give us what we want from it. We'll go somewhere else where we do get that. Where we do get what we want from that situation.
yeah,
I do that. I continue to do that, and yet, well, I guess the question that I want to ask you then is: you say that as you get older, you purposely putting yourself in situations where you want to numb your brain. I would love to be able to watch some YouTube video where I can just sit back and relax, but I can't do. I'm unable to do that because I've tried. I've tried to watch. I don't know something that's disinteresting, but background noise,
hmm,
and I'm constantly, my brain won't turn off.
yeah,
And I've tried medications, I've tried therapy, and there's something in that thought process that just can't turn off. I know that I'm not as smart as you or somebody else around the corner. There's always somebody there smarter, faster, and better.
right.
But that doesn't stop my situation where I don't know that I'm seeking help. That I want to be able to control or understand me.
Yeah,
And I don't know if sociopaths or psychopaths will get or are able to get to that state where, like you said, you'll manipulate yourself to be able to be more comfortable with yourself. And I guess people want to feel comfortable with themselves. So maybe your avenue to that is doing the bare basics to feel more comfortable, or I don't know. I mean, there's something out there for everybody to be able to feel comfortable, and I'm unable to find that for myself, I guess.
yeah. So I think you will, but I think what you kind of described is like what makes it a disorder, which is that you cannot stop your compulsive thoughts. These thoughts that keep going no matter what. You can't watch the YouTube video and just turn them off. Like that. I think that's what psychologists call them. Right, the compulsive, they're like, and I think we're used to thinking of compulsive thoughts in a different way, but I mean, if there's a better word, then somebody else can suggest it to me, but
That's what's challenging as well. That's what's really challenging, is because if they are compulsive thoughts, then I'll happily take that label. But loads of people have said the compulsive thought that I do have, they're right, they're correct. The way I see things, they're not abnormal. They're not wrong. They're not paranoid. They're not 1 plus 1 is 6. What
right.
I am saying is correct and true to a lot of degrees.
Hmm.
So why are those compulsive thoughts?
Well,
What,
just because a thought is compulsive doesn't mean that it's like it's irrational, like it's psychosis or something. Like I could
Yeah,
have the
yeah.
compulsive thought, that tomorrow the high temperature is going to be X, and if I can't stop myself from thinking that, even if it's accurate, then that's what makes it compulsive. It's not that it's inaccurate. It's just that, like, that's fine, but can you let go of that thought and stop thinking it?
I mean, again, saying that as well, it's like people go out their lives and they think these things. Open this door, get in the car, eat food, and they won't stop thinking that my stomach's hurting, so I need to make food until they make food.
Hmm.
And I guess I need to put the bin bags out. Simple thoughts, little thoughts. You
Yeah.
won't stop thinking those until the action is completed. So what's the difference then between everyday to day life? Sort of, you for an example, you want to watch TV. You will continuously leave that thought in your head until you turn the TV on. I
Hmm.
need to turn the volume up. That thought will be there until you turn the volume up.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between a compulsive thought like that
Uh-huh.
and the average normal thought of I need to go to the toilet? You'll continue you'll think that until it happens.
Yes. So, I mean, like a compulsive thought, I would say those are maybe kind of more impulsive thoughts, right? They're kind of prompting you to act. A compulsive thought would be more like something that, you're just kind of fixated on in like an odd way. Let me try to think of a good one. So, like, I think I've mentioned this before on like a previous YouTube video where, like, when I got fired from being a law professor, right?
Yeah.
One of the only people who was like actually negative, engaged with me in a negative way, was mean to me, was this person who was going to be a co-author with me on a paper that I had like initiated. I came up with, it was going to be an empirical work. We're going to do an experiment. I had come up with the experimental design, and then I like met her at one of these conferences, and she's like, "Hey, I'd love to like co-write something. Do you have anything in the works?" And I was like, "Actually, I do have this." And she was like at a better ranked law school. So she had kind of like a better, street cred or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I was kind of using her too. I was like, well, maybe she's my co-author, even though I could totally do this my own self and
So
probably
much better
will.
to get somebody else's name on it.
Exactly. And maybe we can get like a better placement for this, and that will be better for my career, right? So that's the only reason I asked her the co-author. And then when she after all this kind of this came out or whatever, she called me up. She said, like, keep my name out of your mouth, like I will sue you if you ever mention anything, and like never use any of the stuff that we've like used before or whatever. Right. So I'm like,
Wow.
fine, whatever. Yeah. Well, she kind of was just like, don't put my name on anything, I think is what she said. Right. So
Yeah.
fast forward, like, basically, 8, 9 years or whatever, I was teaching this topic, this subject matter again for the first time in a while. And I was reading actually a law book written by one of my former colleagues. And, she cited, I think she cited my work too, but she also cited the work of this paper that I never wrote. I never
Yeah.
wrote it. I never did the thing because, I stopped being a law professor. So this woman had stolen after telling me, you're a terrible person,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're a
Yeah.
sociopath,
Same thing.
like, never associate me with you because you're a terrible person. She stole my experimental design and then went, because she couldn't do it her own self. She doesn't have those skills to be able to do an experiment. She's not an empiricist, right? So she went to another empiricist and found another co-author to be
Oh,
like, to
wow.
actually run the experiment. And they don't mention me at all. So they do this experiment, they do this paper, and it's just like zero mention of the fact that she just stole stole everything from me, right?
So she got the gumption to threaten you, but she does the exact same thing herself.
Exactly. Like, okay, so that, if I was like then become obsessed with that thought, and every morning I wake up and I was like, I cannot believe she did this to me, like, where that's just like a constant thought I have, is that my reality is so colored by this experience. Now, it's a very true experience. That experience is true, and I do, like, when I get back from Paris, and
Yeah. Yeah.
some, I will contact her co-authors, who seem like very nice people. right? Like I didn't know them personally, like while I was a law professor, but like I have friends of friends, they seem like very nice people, very smart and
Yeah.
stuff. I'm sure they'll do the right thing. And I'm pretty sure it's going to ruin her career because it's so highly unethical to do something like this, right? So I'm kind of like, okay, I will get around to this. And it's actually been a year, I keep being like, I'll get around to this eventually. It's like one of these back burner,
I'm with you. I'm totally with you.
yeah,
So
things or whatever. Yeah,
what's
what's
stopping you from then?
well, the thing is, nothing's stopping me except I'm not compulsive about it. Like just today, I'd rather talk with you. Today I have other things that are like more interesting to me. So I'm able to kind of let go of that thought and just do other things,
But
at my
you
own
say
choice.
you say that you're able to let go of that thought, but on the other hand, you've said that you still plan on doing that. So it's obviously the thought is there.
Oh
You
yeah, the
want to do
thought's
it.
there, and here and there I like think of it, but it's not like it doesn't color anything, but just it's like something on my to-do list. It's like I know I have to go to the
Yeah. Yeah.
dentist in the fall, you know.
No, I get what get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But then, am I right in saying then that your view is that the way that I'm coming across then is that I'm intense on my thoughts then. So everything's coloring my view, and I don't know. I don't know if you can see what I'm trying to get at, or
Yeah,
if I
I
need.
do. I do, I think. So I think I don't want to characterize you, but I thought you said that you want to turn off these thoughts or you've tried to turn them off and just like watch
Do
YouTube,
kind
but
of.
you can't, right?
So because I can't, then it is because that I'm intensifying everything, and
Well, it just
uh,
means that they're just called compulsive, whatever that means. It's just a
I'm
label.
with you. I'm with you.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, it's not
No,
bad or anything. It's just, but I find this to be true is that the more like if, as psychopaths, and this is kind of my pitch to psychopaths about getting better, going to therapy and getting better, is that as psychopaths, we love so much to, be able to do whatever we want whenever we want. And doesn't it kind of suck to feel like you have to manipulate and control people all the time?
that, that is yeah. No, I mean,
Yeah,
but
I mean, that's
everyone.
clearly not the best situation. You'd at least want to be able to kind of like drop in and out of it as you choose, be able to like have a greater facility. Like, because people used to ask me, they'd be like, hey, do you, if you had a choice, if you could, just choose to stop being a psychopath, would you choose to stop being a psychopath? And they thought that was like so controversial, I guess.
It's one of those sort of, yeah. Would you rather be a sheep or a wolf?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. But I always said, actually, I would choose to stop being a psychopath. And the answer is probably psychopathic just because the novelty of being able to experience life a different way is just, like appealing to me too. I've already lived this many decades as a psychopath. Wouldn't it be interesting to live in a different way? So I don't think like a lot of psychopaths, I think, worry like, hey, if there's so many advantages, which we've already talked about, of being a psychopath, why would I want to change? And I say, well, you don't have to change everything, but if you could have more options, like when I was growing up, there were like 4 channels on the television that you could watch,
Yeah.
and now there are like, I don't know, a million shows
Yeah.
that I could be watching, and who wouldn't want the choice, so that I think that is kind of the pitch is that, uh, yes, it's great to be a psychopath. And yes, the normal people are wrong about a lot of things. There are a lot of positives to being a psychopath, as we have discussed, but there are some things too about being a psychopath that wouldn't you want a little bit more flexibility or kind of control or predictability over your own self?
Wouldn't that mean then as well that if you were to switch off these emotions, or if you were to switch off certain aspects of yourself or change certain aspects of yourself,
Mhm.
then you become more vulnerable to getting taken the piss out of, or not being able to see situations where you're intentionally, or not even intentionally, where you're going to put yourself in harm's way, or a situation that you know that if you were a sociopath, you'd never put yourself in. I mean, you don't want thousands of pounds getting taken off you. You don't want to get into fights. You don't want your
Mhm.
kids getting taken off you.
Right.
And
So, I mean, no, I don't think that anything is taken away. I think it's just additive. Like the stuff, the like, um, the psychopaths that I know that have kind of like started kind of exploring other ways of living, that
Yeah.
they can always turn the channel back to the psychopath channel is a good way to put it. You know, it's just like you still have those same four channels. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just have more tools in your toolbox.
So I guess then I've got to find those tools.
Yeah. But
What would you suggest?
so I think where you kind of talked some places that you've already kind of suggested yourself are really good. So you've already mentioned that ever since you've broken up with or your partner, you're no longer with your partner, whatever the
Yeah, yeah,
circumstances were, uh, that you have been more yourself. And I think that's really important because I think this kind of, you know, when we talked about before, a competing interest between wanting to predict in order to lead to safety, you know, versus wanting to just do whatever you want whenever you want.
yeah.
You know,
That's go on.
yeah, and have that fun, carefree life. You know, uh there is a tension. There's a real tension there, and it's almost like, you know, springing back like a bow and arrow. Like the more you kind of pull one way with the control, the more it's gonna, like, when you let go of it, snap back. You know, because there is, like, I think, and this is probably true, but you can ask your own self, kind of do some self exploration about this, that one of the reasons why this is happening is that when you're in your control mode, you are denying some aspect or basic need of yourself, right? There's some part of you that you're not listening to.
Yeah,
And
yeah, no,
yeah, and kind of like saying, hey, you know, here's a legitimate need of mine, and we will find a legitimate way of addressing this need. You know, like, this is something that we can incorporate. So because that happens, then, like, you know, the your party goblin maybe comes out and says, like, you've silenced me too long. You know, like, I won't be silenced forever. You know, this is also part of you, and needs to be like a part of your life. So it comes out and then, like, wrecks your car or whatever, right? So that that is an unpredictable kind of like way to experience your whole self.
yeah, no. I'm totally with you there. I mean,
Yeah, a more predictable way probably to experience your whole self would be to find ways to actively engage all aspects of your kind of yourself, who you are, who what you want, your needs, your basic needs, you know, even your basic desires, you know, like, because what is it? Man cannot live on bread alone. You know, you also need to have things that
yeah,
engage you, that interest you, that are passions of yours, that, you know, you don't have to force yourself to do. So I think that's kind of like the way, and it's that doesn't sound so bad, does it?
no, it doesn't. Would you say then that that's why you're an author, and that's why you went into law, is to be able to experience everything that you wanted to be able to experience in a positive way? There was an outlet. I mean, I'm guessing you enjoy writing. You enjoy talking to people and helping other people understand. So using what you have rather than in a negative way, or um, being lost and confused, scared, or whatever. You're putting it, and you're experiencing bread, butter, beans, and tomatoes, and everything else that you want, sort of thing. I don't
Hmm.
know if I'm.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that probably is true. That's a very Excel spreadsheet way to describe it, though.
That's understanding it is.
Yes. You know, so, like, even though it is kind of true what you say, like, normal people have friends to get something from them, you know? Like, not to abuse them, but to have someone to go to the pub with, to have
Yeah,
somebody to, you know,
to have an
call up.
outlet of what you want
Yeah.
to experience. You want to feel
Exactly.
something,
Exactly.
and
You know,
use something.
otherwise there's no point in having friends. That is true. But like, don't I wouldn't focus on kind of like the end result when you're doing these things. I would just think more like holistically about, like, hey, I am going to, you know, like, try to be more what's a good way to put it? Like, thoughtful, like, about the way that I find, what, you know, to kind of observe my own personal needs and find means of expression of all of those needs in my life. I think you should do that just because you want to, you know, have like the full expression of yourself in this life, because you only have one life to live. Who wants to just kind of like cut off parts of themselves and be like, these are inconvenient to me right now? you know
I get what you're saying, but okay. Uh, from what I've got from what you've said, then
hmm
are you saying that I should go into situations and scenarios blind? That I should just be able to hope for the best?
No, not that you go in there blind, but not necessarily that not every single thing that you do, you have to know the end from the beginning. Every once in a while, you can just be like, I'm going to just try this. Like it seems like this is a personal need of mine. So even though I can't predict right now, like to be able to do things that you can't predict is just like opening up a world that maybe you've not explored that much. Except you do explore it. You explore it in your impulsive moments, right? But I'm
I do.
saying, can you explore that world without being impulsive? Can you just like be very thoughtful about it and actually be like, tomorrow from the hours of 3 and 4, I'm going to explore. I'm going to
No, I,
explore situations or whatever things that I can't predict. Like things that seem to be, things that you are needs, personal needs or personal desires of yours, or just areas of interest or passion, you know, and to just try something without knowing ahead of time that it's going to work out or that it's going to be worthwhile, but to just try something.
so purposely put yourself in a position where it's overwhelming and you're unable to see the outcome.
Yeah, or kind of personally put yourself in situations that, maybe it's just a little impulse. And normally you would just like stifle that impulse and be like, well, like what's the point of doing that? Instead of asking yourself, what's the point of doing that? You just kind of allow yourself to do that thing without kind of like thinking, is this the, best way, most efficient way, like, what outcome is this going to lead to?
I do apologize for the noise. I'm literally going to be in here for a couple of minutes just to pick this up. But but what you're saying to me comes with age. Then it's not. It's I'm unable to do that now because the way my brain works, or the way I see that it's working, is I'm constantly thinking. And you're telling me that if I put myself, or what I'm getting from it then, is put myself in a situation and just let it happen without thinking.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And you're saying that when you get older, you sort of slow down and switch off.
hmm
So I'm only able to do that with age, not now. And I'm just supposed to.
No, and in fact, when you were a child, so I'll give you two stories. So I met this other psychopath. Actually, he calls this like the dandelion way of life. Is that even forget why the name comes. Like a dandelion, when you blow it, it just goes in the wind, and who knows where it goes. So he does stuff like he'll intentionally just like show up at the airport and just be like, "What's the cheapest flight you have?"
Yeah, yeah.
And then just get on the flight, right? And then so he's intentionally trying to enlarge his world beyond things that he can control and predict, right?
Stick yourself in a random situation.
Yeah, so that's one way to do it, to kind of get yourself used to doing this. But I think the better way to think of it is the second story, which I think I've told before, which is my niece, who she was a toddler. It was last summer, and she was like, all my nieces and nephews were on the beach, were like family camping at the beach or whatever, and they
Yeah.
decided to fill up this a pit that they dug in the sand with water, right? Now, if you've ever been to the beach, you understand that like pits dug in the sand, especially if they're pretty high above the water table, like the water
Yeah,
drains out really fast through
yeah, yeah.
sand. Yeah, so very permeable. So they're doing it though for like 20 minutes. They have buckets, they're bringing up the ocean water, and she was getting her water actually from the kiddie pool. We had like this little kiddie pool for like babies to like hang out in the beach so the waves don't get them. So she was going to a closer place, the kiddie pool, but all the big kids had buckets and she just had like this little cup, like super
Oh,
small.
bless.
Yeah, and so she's doing it and she did it for like an hour. The other kids only did it for like 20 minutes, they're all
Yeah.
doing it, and she did it for like an hour though, and she's just going back and forth and back and forth. And I just sat there watching her being like, doesn't she know that what she's doing has no purpose?
living in the moment and expecting
Yes,
wasn't it?
yes, yes. But what the epiphany I had about this, because I kept wondering about it for like 24 or 48 hours or something, right? I was like, man, why did she do that? And I
Yeah,
felt
yeah.
like badly for her, like she's wasting her life doing this thing that has no purpose. But then I thought the epiphany was like, why do I measure everything in terms of objective outcomes, like the difference that it makes to the world? Like, who
Yeah.
cares? What about the difference it makes inside of you? Like, so like you could spend this hour doing this next hour after we get off, you could spend it doing anything, right? But like, why do we kind of measure productivity and meaning and purpose about what we choose to do based on like the effect that it will have? Like, oh, I could spend it doing work, and then that I could earn money, or I could spend it eating, I could spend it, I could spend it in these ways that have like these kind of objective values. Like everyone would
Oh, yeah.
acknowledge, yeah, eat, shower, yes, brush your teeth, work, these are all things that are productive. But what about if I just like laid in bed, you know
Do something for the sake of just doing it without
yeah,
expecting
exactly.
the end of it.
Yeah, because if the thing that you're doing like lights you up right now, if the thing that you do for the next hour lights you up and gives you like this sense of enjoyment, of sense of fulfillment, sense of like you are like here in the moment, engaging with this with the world in this kind of like very very uh like unique to you way, like only you are engaging with the world in this exact sort of way kind of thing. If you're able to kind of like tap into this and be able to do something not just because the Excel spreadsheet says to, uh then
No, I
I
get it.
think,
I do.
yeah, yeah, I think this is a good kind of thing to just explore.
No, I think I'll definitely 100% give that a go. And I think well, I've got another question I want to ask as well. I mean,
Yes.
talking about my personal past sort of thing, something I'm not proud of, and something that I'm happy that you said turn my face off and change my name.
Hmm.
For the last 10 years, I needed to understand people, and I got the way I did that is I used a Facebook profile and I pretended to be a psychic, and I spoke to at least a good couple of hundred people, and I was pretending to be a psychic. I know this about you, I know that about you, and I got bored after that, and then I upped the ante. I started charging, and I got bored again, and then it was more sexual gratification. I think take your clothes off, do this for me, do that for me, and I got bored after that. And then it was more meet people around me, and well, I've never had physical intercourse with anybody because I know that's illegal and I'll get into trouble for that one. But I've spoken to hundreds of different people to be able to understand them, and to understand them, I'm able to understand myself. And well, I say this because you're saying that live in the moment, that don't try to expect anything of it, and just experience what you're experiencing. But you still, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, you will still go into situations, environment, even if you are just trying to experience the moment. y- there's still an end goal, there's still an expectation, there's still something there that you want to meet. I mean, the little girl who kept walking back and forth with the water to
Mm.
fill up the hole, she was doing it to fill up the hole. I mean, how are you able to just switch off when you're doing something to get somewhere?
Yeah.
And I guess I guess that I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to
No,
get
no,
at,
no,
but
no. It's a totally legitimate question. So one thing, this is like not as applicable to your question, so hopefully patience.
yeah,
But one thing that my therapist used to do, thought experiment, would be he would say, try to, when you're faced with a decision about what to do, pretend as if there's nobody else in the world that this could possibly affect or influence, or, it doesn't matter to anybody because they don't exist. And given that situation in which nobody else exists, what is your true preference? What is the thing that you want to eat for lunch? What is the thing that you want to do in the next hour? Right? So that's one thought experiment. That's a really good one. Another good one, it sounds like kind of, just I thought as you were saying this is just think, what if the world ends in the next hour? What is it that I want to do for this next hour if the world ends in the next hour? Because then it will kind of get you focused on just doing the thing for the sake of doing the thing itself, not for the sake of it leading to X, which then leads to Y, which then leads to Z, right? Because you're right. My niece, was trying to fill up the water hole, but clearly she wasn't really focused on that
Yeah.
because it was such a failure. Like she's not an idiot.
Okay.
Like if she was doing it just for that, she would have stopped. She would have realized this is not working, and stopped. It was just something about like the repetitive motion or the whatever else it is. So whatever the thing is that you decide to do, and like really try, this is my kind of challenge to you, my concrete challenge to
Carry
you.
on. I like challenges.
Yeah, is that every day find an hour in which you just do something kind of like that. Like if the world ended, like in an hour, this is what I do. I do like
What
X,
would
Y,
I
or
do?
Z. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I understand what you're kind of saying. This is like a tricky thing for psychopaths because all of us have ghosts. That's what my girlfriend calls them. Ghosts are people, but she also says ghost situation, things where you're just like so kind of like when you remember them, you kind of cringe and think, oh man,
Yeah.
I am a bad
What did I?
person.
And isn't that the battle that you have then? You're
Yeah.
constantly fighting. You're good or bad.
Yeah. But the truth is, the bad, the bad, it's kind of tricky because people kind of the reaction I get to when I say, hey, just be yourself a little bit more frequently every day, just do something for the sake of it's just what you want to do or whatever. The concern is that if people drop their control over themselves and don't manipulate themselves and don't keep themselves on a short leash, then they will do truly bad things. Like I do think that that is a
Yeah.
concern that I had, other people have had. And I think though the answer is like you're not that person. You're not the bad things person. You're just that way because of the things that you've kind of done to yourself, if that's like makes sense. So maybe this I think I've mentioned maybe this dream before, but this was like a big epiphany dream that I had where I had a nightmare and I was like in my parents' house, like my old childhood home, and I was in this one bedroom and there were all these kind of like government people, with like the assault rifles or whatever, like black ops like type people. And I knew that they were there to protect me, and then I was like, okay, good, they're here, I'm safe. And so I kind of had like a nap within the dream, so I woke up within the dream from my nap and I woke up to find that all the black ops people were gone, and that the thing that they were trying to protect me from happened because inside my parents' bedroom closet was somebody that they were like keeping prisoner. I call him
Yeah.
pancake hands man because his hands were all like melded, together. It was just like flat hands, no fingers, just like flat kind of pancake hands.
I'm with you.
Yeah, like somebody had done that to him. They had like mutilated his hands to be that way, and he had no mouth, no mouth.
Oh,
So
impressive.
yeah, I couldn't speak anymore. But that's because somebody had mutilated him. So like no mouth, no hands, and then the person who had killed all the black ops guys and gotten pancake hands man out. I knew who that person was too. It was No Skin Man, who, like his name, had no skin.
You've
So
got a
he's
very vivid imagination, haven't you?
yes, he's just walking around with muscle, and I could tell it's No Skin Man because he left bloody footprints, right? So they're bloody footprints up to the closet where he got Pancake Hands Man out, and then like out the door again. And then I was like, oh crap, they're on the loose again. These guys are on the loose. I'm in trouble, right? So at the time, I was talking to this guy for sleep treatment. He's a neurobiofeedback guy. And I was like, I've been like an off and on in insomniac, have had like sleep issues. So I was like going to see him for insomnia issues. And so he asked me like, hey, how did you sleep? And I said, actually not well because I had this nightmare. And he's like, well, I'm kind of like an amateur dream interpreter, like
I
tell
was just
me.
about to say that the dream that you have with Pancake Man and those Skin Man, you know these have got like real life inflections on your life. The reason you're
Yes.
dreaming these is because there's something in your life that you either haven't come to terms to, or you need to sort of look into a little bit more to make your life better. But you
Yes.
would literally just about to say that, and I interrupted you. So carry on.
No, no, no. Yeah, exactly. No, it's good that you said it. And so he was asking me these questions, kind of trying to prompt me, like who did that to Pancake Hands Man? And then I'm like sitting there thinking, like in the dream logic, who did that? And then I realized it was me that had done that to Pancake Hands Man.
Yeah,
And he said, who did that to No Skin Man? Who like took off his skin? And I realized it was me. And I was like, man, why would I do these things to these people? And then he asked me, aren't these two people, Pancake Hands Man and No Skin Man, aren't they just
ew,
parts of you that you've decided to like mutilate and kind of silence and like to disempower by taking away their
yeah,
ability to do things? And, like it was like such an epiphany for me because I thought 100%. And why am I doing that to myself? Why am I distorting myself and mutilating myself for whatever the Excel spreadsheet says or whatever society says I have to do or whatever it is the reason? There should be no reason that I ever distort myself, mutilate myself, silence myself, disempower myself, even if I'm kind of afraid of myself because I'm unpredictable to myself. I still cannot do it. I need to figure out some better way that I can still be me and and just kind of trust that I can be me and I'm not a monster. Like I don't need to kind of like shackle myself, kind of what is this? Is it like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde or something? Doesn't he try to like shackle
yeah.
himself because he's so afraid, or like the Wolf Man? Like this is not
Again,
us.
I think this might be the same worry that you've had yourself. What if
Yes.
you do? I mean, no, I will go into details because what if when you become unshackled and your true self that you are dangerous? Because this isn't just me. I know there's hundreds of other people who've done it, exactly the same thing. There's a PDF internet website called Uncle Fester's Cookbooks, and he creates things from napalm to mustard gas to nitroglycerin. What if? And I enjoy. I love doing that stuff. When I
Mhm.
put myself in those positions and I make napalm and I make nitroglycerin and that's I'm not trying to turn the conversation to being ominous, but
Mhm.
or if it turns out that I enjoy doing that and then I enjoy making it, so brilliant. The next step would be seeing the effects, and I've seen the effects on cars, on the ground, etc. etc. The next
Mhm.
step would be, well, the next step after that would be groups of people. The next step after that would be buildings with people in there. So, I mean, that's the battle, isn't there? I mean, you let yourself go, you feel good because you're doing something that you enjoy. And how do you, again, how do you stop yourself from um, being Jekyll and Hyde,
Yeah.
being Jack the Ripper, or that's the battle, isn't it? That's
Yeah. How much?
I don't want. Sorry, go on.
No, good. You finished. You don't want to.
I don't want. I'm afraid that I would enjoy being somebody that society would frown upon very much.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And that's why I guess that I'm putting my self through psychology, sociology, criminology. I'm currently working as I don't know the term,
Mhm.
but I'm working with kids and adults with mental health illnesses coming out of prison.
Mhm.
But that's because that's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
But I'd more than happily not yeah no I'd be capable and enjoy being Dexter from TV.
Mhm.
And that's what scares me because I'm capable and I know I'd be good at it, but I just the thought process is that they don't stop. I've had a little bit to drink. I do apologize.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
No, I totally get it. Yes.
And to go on a different tangent, and I know we'll come back to what we originally was talking about as well.
yeah.
That with the sociopathic or psychopathic brain, I found that doing weed, cannabis, magic mushrooms, sorry, not weed, sorry, cannabis, magic mushrooms, and cocaine, do they have the same effect for sociopaths and psychopaths? Because when normal people take them, they have a wide variety of different effects. But when I take them, I've been told that I've got the same sort of outlook that shouldn't happen. Is that
Mm.
some sort of biological function, or is that just, you've done some research on that yourself? I'm pretty sure.
Uh,
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, not me, and some other people that I've talked to. I think Victoria has talked about doing is it psilocybin, the magic
Magic
mushrooms?
mushrooms, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then other people I've talked to who have really kind of had like epiphanies or one person described it as like psychopath melting a little bit, just because it kind of like helped to like release in a little bit of a way some of the compulsive psychopath thoughts. So that one I have heard about. I haven't tried cocaine, but I've done like alcohol, weed, whatever. And I would say that, like, to the extent that a lot of these drugs seem to just disinhibit you, you're already disinhibited. So, like, what are they really doing? Maybe they're just making you a little bit like slower reactions. you know,
That's what I mean. See,
a
they
little
should
stupider.
make it,
Yeah.
uh, but they turn my brain into hyperdrive. They make it go
Oh, really?
faster.
That's interesting.
That that's what I've been told by others. I mean, when I do marijuana, I can't stop talking. I will continuously just brain overload. I've been told by a GP that my brain's eventually going to burn out.
Wow.
And me saying that to you might come across as I don't know, being big-headed. It's genuinely not.
No,
And
I constantly tell people that the reason why I force myself, like take sleep meds and stuff, I force myself to sleep 10 hours a day is because not just because I need the sleep, but because I can't be awake that long each day. Like the brain cannot handle it. Like, and I get really grumpy, like really kind of agitated and like angry even like the hour leading up until when I sleep. And I think, imagine if I had to like stay awake another couple hours, I'd still get more and more angry probably.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So get back to the original thought where we were talking about letting yourself go and doing fighting against good and bad.
Hmm.
What surely that I don't want to do that, and I know if I was to let go, and I'd be good at it. I'd enjoy myself. I'd have a whale of a time. So how do you concentrate and channel that
Hmm.
into something you do? For instance, like a law professor, an author, somebody who does good in the world.
Yeah.
If 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 you're constantly battling against doing something like that, then
Yeah. I think you can't.
surely I put
Yeah.
myself in sort of police station or something.
Right. So I think the answer is you can't force yourself to do things. I mean, like maybe I was a law professor, maybe that was good, but the things that I'm most proud about are not things that I manipulated myself to do. They're things that just kind of naturally happened as a result of just being my own self. And the more that I focused on being my own self, the less I felt the need to try to engage in things that were like what do we say? Stimulative? Stimulating.
Stimulated.
Yes, yes. So like the more that I just kind of like, because kind of like one, have you ever noticed this? I get in like food crushes or whatever, so I'll eat the same thing over and over again, like fried
Yeah.
chicken. And then like my
100%.
body,
Exactly.
yeah, my body's craving so bad, like a salad. It
Yeah,
says,
yeah.
eat salad. And so I think that's kind of what happens, that if we kind of force ourselves in situations in which all we do is care about society, we end up actually being antisocial. Like I sympathize with you, and I am uh I think it's very admirable that your concern is society. You're like, hey, but what about society? Because I could truly be a threat to society. But I think the thing that could, that is the most threatening, the most likely to lead to a threat to society, is for you to be so concerned about society all the time, that you're doing pancake hands man to yourself and no skin man, where you feel like you need to stifle yourself at every turn, when really my own experience at least, and I had the same kind of concerns as you did, but my own experience is the more that you just find daily means of like self-expression and just like letting go of the Excel spreadsheets and letting go of like, the thoughts of tomorrow or whatever else it is, the thoughts about how you might be affecting others, it's very counterintuitive. I will I will say that for sure. And here's kind of the thing. When I told you that the thought experiment my therapist gave me about imagine that there's nobody else in the world, that seems extremely counterintuitive because a lot of people, he told me that to stop manipulating people. He's like, do you want to know a way to stop manipulating people? It's just to pretend there's nobody else. And
Just
that seems
concentrate
super
on nobody else.
counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, no, of course, you never say that to a psychopath. They'll go
So
crazy.
can you sit there and tell me that you are 100% comfortable with who you are right now?
Yes, yes.
That is impressive. That genuinely is. That's impressive.
Yeah. I mean, that is like the light at the end of the tunnel. It like truly is. But here's kind of the thing, I think it's kind of good that we're a psychopath, like we can see it as a curse or as a blessing. There are a lot of blessings we already talked about, but like
Yeah.
ultimately it's a big blessing because I feel like most people, they kind of go through their lives and they don't have to worry about things like, will I, you know, accidentally
Murder
kill
the next
people?
day or something. Yeah, yeah.
Right? They don't have to worry about things like that. And so they're never kind of prompted to do this like particular work, which is just self actualization. Like, I think that it's probably easier actually for psychopaths to self actualize than normal people because they have so many problems with the self that create so many problems for them and like just lead to so much kind of white knuckling all the time,
Yeah.
trying to like shackle ourselves to keep from doing bad things. That we are highly motivated to find a different way to live, right? And since we're so highly motivated, eventually we will reach this point of like self actualization, which is like
You
a
do
beautiful thing.
realize, you do realize, if I ever end up on a newspaper somewhere, I'm totally blaming you.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I'll take full responsibility for this. Like if I
No,
didn't believe this like 100% from just like, I mean, there are people worse than you, if you can imagine, that I've talked to,
not
and everybody
100%.
gets
There's a
helped by
don't something
this.
worse or better. Yeah. So I don't know. That's sort of just feel comfortable with yourself. Feel comfortable with what you're doing, and don't worry about anybody else. Like you said, counter initiative, because the worry is that I'm going to hurt somebody, but
Hmm.
because I'm worrying about hurting somebody, then that's going to end up me hurting somebody. If I'm constantly worrying about that, so just let go.
Yes.
And I don't need medication. I don't need therapy. I just need to let go. And no, like I said, I came into this hoping for something, and something has come out of it.
Yeah. Well, I would
And,
say I don't know that you need therapy or whether you need medication or not. It could be that
yeah,
there's
yeah,
something else going on, whatever. But the thing that it sounds like your life is lacking right now, because you said so yourself, like you wish you could just have like an hour of just watching YouTube. But like think about like what if you could do that? How much better could your life be? Have you ever tried it? Have you ever tried it? And I know that it's hard to do, but I think with these kind of thought experiments, you can just, if you can't do it for an hour, just do it for 5 minutes. I do now 45 push-ups a day. I started doing just 10, you know?
brilliant,
Yeah, and then I
brilliant.
just I just do it every whatever day and it's so much better for my health, right? So like doing this, if you can just do 3 minutes a day, do 3 minutes, and then the next day maybe try for
Absolute no
3 minutes,
wasting.
10 seconds. Exactly.
Another one I wanted to ask then, a rewind button, I call it.
Hmm.
When you get put in conversations and or whatever life gives you, are you able to sort of, not in detail, but rewind the situation, go through it, and get what you need to get out of it? Just an example that I can give you that you'll be able to understand then.
Hmm.
I've been talking to a girl for a while, and we had intimacy. I think it was a couple of days ago, and a massive conversation while I was high. I yeah, no. And I rewound the situation, and I went through what happened, why it happened, and I know normal people ain't able to do that. Is that a thing that you're able to do? Is in, yeah, no, rewind the situation, play it forward, and live through that event again.
Yeah. I mean, I would say yes, and it probably kind of stems again from and it's not a bad thing. Like even when I was little, right? Like I would say that this is not just like a psychopathic characteristic of
Yeah,
mine, but I had a need to know. I need to know, I need to understand people, myself, the world, whatever it was. And the way that I have uh met that need over the
go on.
years has had its ups and downs, like has been antisocial, pro-social, mostly antisocial, right? Because it'd be like, invading people's privacy, asking invasive like personal
Yeah,
questions,
yeah. But
what
when you ask those personal invasive questions, you don't see them as being personal invasive, do you?
right.
You see them as getting to understand and know somebody better.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
to that person, it's like, what the fuck are you asking? You shouldn't be asking something like that. And
Yeah.
yet they will continue. And this is what I found as well, and you've probably been in the same situation yourself, that you will talk to somebody and you will have a conversation and what you think is having a conversation.
Mm,
You're trying to understand that person. They'll get angry, they'll get pissed off, and they'll get to a threatening state, and they'll be like, right, fuck off, I don't want to do anything about you, blah 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 blah, and then they'll go away, and you'll avoid a fight, you'll avoid a difficult, dangerous situation, but yet they will come back because they want more,
mm,
and then you start talking to them again, and the stuff that you were saying doesn't agree with them. They don't like that feeling that they're having, so they'll get more irate and they'll get angry again, and they're like just really pissed off and angry at you, and then they'll fuck off again. They'll disappear, and they'll keep coming back. You don't want to put yourself in that position where where you're talking to somebody and getting to know them and understand them, blah blah blah. So why they keep coming back if they're so angry and pissed off with everything you're saying? Why are they still intrigued? Why
yeah.
do they keep coming back and wanting that hurt and that pain? Surely that pain and hurt is something that you should fucking run away from and never come back to. But yet they will keep continuing to come back until they can't take anymore, and they will get into disagreement with you, physical or verbally.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've experienced yourself?
Yeah, and it's like a way in which normal people sometimes use psychopaths, right? So it's kind of a flip thing where it's like whatever they're getting from you, is like scratching an itch. What is the itch? I don't know if it's like they need to be seen or they want to be exposed to that degree of
Yeah, yeah.
intensity of like engaging with life or that flavor of like I think a lot of it's because we're not socialized because uh we're not susceptible to interpersonal pressures really like mob mentality, like we're not really part of society, like we're not connected actually, we're just amongst you more
Yeah.
than we are with you, right? And I think people like that because it's like, yeah, I like talking to this person because they also, or they realize what this is all bullshit or whatever, so when they want to kind of be in that like
Spotlight.
feeling, yeah, exactly, yeah, of like talking to somebody different that's not part of the same old whatever, then I think that is attractive to them. It's kind of like, people who have they reap the benefits of like a stable relationship and marriage and family, let's say, but then they have affairs or whatever to scratch an itch of they don't want to always be in that world.
So, like the scratch and the itch and being in the spotlight and the positives that they're getting from it. Why is it that they get angry, and they have the hateful views, and they get angry and then they go away and they have to come back? If they wanted to be in the spotlight and they wanted to see the good, they wanted to feel seen. Where
Hmm.
does that negativity come from?
Honestly, I think it's because they know deep down that they're using you, right? They know that they're
So
the bad guy. They're listening to you say all these crazy things or something, but they know that they're the bad guy. And so then they have to devalue you. It's kind of like if I accidentally murdered somebody, right? Or whatever, murdered somebody, right? Like I murdered somebody and I'm a normal person, right? What would I do? I'd be like, they deserved it. They deserved it because they were a baddie, you know?
Well, nice. I'll take that, and I'll. That's fair enough. Totally fair enough.
Yeah, I think. I mean, the circumstances could be different, but yeah, think about it. And then you know what I think we should do is let's follow up with you in like a few months and see how your project of an hour a day is going. If you can't do an hour
I
a
will
day right
give it
away,
a go.
work up to an hour a day.
I will definitely give it a go. You'll either see me on the newspapers, or you'll either see me in a month from now.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, it was so good
Brilliant.
talking with you, and I have
Thank
something
you
else I
for
had to
your
ask you.
time.
I'll follow up with you in an email.
Yeah, and of course. Thank you for giving me time. It was very much appreciated. Thank you.
See
I
you.
will try. Bye, bye, bye.